The morning sun cast long shadows across the mining colony of New Busan. Captain Hyunwoo Park stood at his office window, watching the giant machines dig deep into the red soil of Kepler 442b. The planet had been humanity's home for 15 years now. 50,000 people lived here, working hard to pull rare metals from the ground and send them back to Earth. Hyunwoo smiled as he watched his wife So-min walk between the growing fields. She was the colony's head botanist, making sure they could grow enough food to feed everyone. Her green garden stood out bright against the reddish dirt of the alien world. She had worked for 10 years to make plants from Earth grow in this strange soil. "Dad, look at this!" Eugene Park burst into his office, her eyes bright with excitement. At 16, she already knew more about alien life than most adults. She wanted to be a xenobiologist like the famous scientists back on Earth. In her hands, she held a small crystal that seemed to glow with its own light. "Where did you find that?" Hyunwoo asked, taking the crystal from his daughter. It was warm to the touch and pulsed softly like a heartbeat. "In the deep mines, Section 7. There are hundreds of them down there, Dad. Maybe thousands. They're all connected somehow. When I touched one, all the others started glowing brighter." Eugene could barely contain her excitement. "I think they might be alive." Hyunwoo turned, the crystal over in his hands. In all their years of mining, they had never found anything like this. The planet had seemed completely dead when they first arrived. No plants, no animals, no signs that life had ever existed here. "Have you told your mother about this?" he asked. "Not yet. I wanted to show you first. Can we tell her at dinner tonight? This could be the discovery that changes everything." Hyunwoo nodded and handed the crystal back to his daughter. "Just be careful, Eugene. We don't know what these things are yet." Across the colony, Jae-ho Kim sat in the defense center, monitoring the quiet space around their planet. As defense coordinator, his job was to watch for any threats. But in 15 years, nothing dangerous had ever come to New Busan. Humanity had spread across dozens of worlds, and they had never met any hostile aliens. Most scientists believed they were alone in the galaxy. The defense center had only basics, equipment, a few old scanning devices, some communication arrays, and a handful of small ships for emergencies. Earth had not seen the need to give them heavy weapons or military ships. This was a mining colony, not a military base. Jae-ho spent most of his days reading reports and checking equipment that never found anything interesting. He sometimes joked with his friends that he had the most boring job in the galaxy. He would later remember those words with bitter sadness. That evening, the Park family gathered for their weekly dinner. It was a tradition they had kept since moving to New Busan. No matter how busy their work became, they always made time for each other on Friday nights. So-min had prepared bulgogi using meat from the colony's farms and vegetables from her gardens. The smell filled their small home, making it feel warm and welcoming. Eugene could barely sit still as she waited for the right moment to share her discovery. "I have something amazing to show you both," Eugene said, pulling out the crystal. "I found this in the deep mines today," So-min gasped as the crystal began to pulse with light. "It's beautiful. But what is it?" "I think it might be some kind of alien life form. Look how it glows when I touch it." Eugene held the crystal up to the light. "There are hundreds more down in the mines. They all seem connected somehow." Hyunwoo watched his wife and daughter examine the crystal together. So-min's scientific training kicked in as she began asking questions about where Eugene had found it and how it behaved. This was what he loved most about his family. They were explorers and scientists, always curious about the world around them. "We should run some tests on it," So-min said. "But carefully. If this really is alien life, we need to make sure we don't harm it." "And we need to report it to Earth," Hyunwoo added. "A discovery like this could change everything we know about life in the galaxy." Eugene beamed with pride. She had always dreamed of making an important scientific discovery. Now, at just 16 years old, she might have found the first proof of alien life that humanity had ever encountered. Outside their home, the mining machines continued their work under the artificial lights. The night shift workers dug deeper, into the planet's crust, unknowingly disturbing more of the strange crystals. Each disturbance sent signals through a network that stretched deep underground, signals that traveled faster than light to receivers far across the galaxy. Jae-ho finished his evening shift and headed home to his family. The scanners showed nothing but empty space around their planet. A few asteroids, some cosmic dust, but no ships or signals. Just another quiet night in the peaceful colony of New Busan. In her laboratory, So-min began preliminary scans of the crystal. The readings were unlike anything she had ever seen. The crystal seemed to have its own energy source, and it was definitely responding to outside stimuli. When she touched it, the glow increased. When she moved it closer to other crystals that Yujin had brought from the mines, they all began to pulse in rhythm. "This is incredible," she whispered to herself. "It's like they're communicating with each other." She worked late into the night, recording every detail. This discovery would make her family famous throughout human space. Yujin would probably get a scholarship to any university she wanted. They might even name the life form after her. So-min had no way of knowing that the crystals were indeed communicating. But they were not just talking to each other. They were sending messages across the vast distances of space, calling to their creators with an ancient distress signal. A signal that meant, "Help us. The destroyers have come." The Park family went to sleep that night, happy and excited about their future. Yujin dreamed of studying alien life on a dozen different worlds. So-min planned the research that would unlock the secrets of the crystals. Hyun-woo imagined how proud Earth would be when they announced their discovery. None of them knew that. Their message to Earth would never be sent. In less than 24 hours, everything they had built on New Busan would be burning. The quiet mining colony would become a battlefield, and the Park family would be torn apart forever. But for now, they slept peacefully under the alien stars, unaware that something was already moving through the darkness toward their world. Something that had been traveling for weeks, following the signals from the crystals that Yujin had found. Something that considered humanity to be thieves and murderers who deserved no mercy. The last quiet night on New Busan was ending. Tomorrow would bring first contact with an alien species, and humanity would learn that not all life in the galaxy was friendly. The morning alarms woke everyone in New Busan at once. Jae-ho Kim ran to the defense center as red lights flashed throughout the colony. His scanners were showing something impossible. 3 large objects had appeared just outside the planet's atmosphere. They had not been there an hour ago. "Sir, we're getting readings unlike anything in our database," reported technician Min-ho Lee. "The objects are approximately 2 kilometers long each. They're not responding to our standard communication channels." Jae-ho stared at the screens. The objects looked organic, like giant sea creatures floating in space. Their surfaces seemed to shift and move, and they glowed with the same pulsing light as the crystals Yujin had found. "Get Captain Park down here immediately," Jae-ho ordered. "And contact Earth. Tell them we have first contact." Hyun-woo arrived within minutes, still putting on his uniform. He had never expected to deal with alien visitors. New Busan was a mining colony, not a diplomatic station. They had no protocols for this situation beyond the basic first contact, guidelines that all colony leaders learned. "What do we know about them?" Hyun-woo asked. "Nothing good," Jae-ho replied. "They appeared without warning. Our sensors show they have some kind of energy weapons, but the technology is completely foreign. And, sir, there's something else. The crystals in the mines have started glowing brighter since these ships arrived." Before Hyun-woo could respond, the communication system crackled to life. A voice spoke in accented but understandable English. Human. Settlement. This is Kesara of the Veltar Dominion. You will prepare to receive our representative for immediate negotiations. Hyunwoo keyed the microphone. This is Captain Hyunwoo Park, commander of New Busan Colony. We welcome peaceful contact with your people. Please state your intentions. There was a long pause before the alien voice responded. Our intentions are simple, human. You will return what you have stolen and leave this world immediately. I don't understand, Hyunwoo said. We have stolen nothing. This world was uninhabited when we arrived 15 years ago. Uninhabited. The alien's voice carried what sounded like anger. You dig into sacred grounds and claim ignorance. You disturb the life seeds of our ancestors and call the world empty. Prepare for our arrival. Resistance will bring consequences. Ambassador Hae-Young Lee arrived at the defense center as the communication ended. She was the colony's only trained diplomat, though her experience was limited to trade negotiations with other human settlements. What do we know about their demands? She asked. They claim we've stolen something, Hyunwoo explained. They mentioned life seeds and sacred grounds. I think they're talking about the crystals Yujin found. Hae-Young paced the small room. If those crystals are important to them, we can negotiate. Maybe we can reach an agreement that lets both our peoples coexist. Jae-ho shook his head. They don't sound interested in coexistence. They want us gone. An hour later, a smaller ship detached from one of the alien vessels. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time, shaped like a massive bird with wings that moved as if they were alive. The ship landed in the colony's main square, and hundreds of colonists gathered to watch humanity's first meeting with alien life. The being that emerged was tall and slender, with scaled skin that shifted between green and gold. Kesara moved with fluid grace, but her large eyes were cold as they surveyed the human colony. 2 guards accompanied her, carrying weapons that looked like living creatures wrapped around their arms. Hae-Young stepped forward with a translation device, though it seemed unnecessary. Welcome to New Busan. I am Ambassador Hae-Young Lee. We are honored to meet you. Kesara ignored the offered handshake. You honor nothing, human. Your people dig into the resting places of our ancestors and steal their life essence. The sacred crystals you have taken are the seeds from which new Veltar worlds are born. We didn't know, Hae-Young said. If we had understood their importance, we would never have disturbed them. Surely we can find a solution that works for both our peoples. There is only one solution, Kesara replied. You will return all crystals you have taken. You will cease your mining operations. You will evacuate this world within one standard cycle. Hyunwoo stepped forward. With respect, we have legal claim to this world through the galactic expansion. Authority. 50,000 people live here. This is our home now. Kesara's scales darkened to deep red. Legal claim? Your human laws mean nothing to us. This world was seeded by our ancestors 1,000 generations ago. Your species did not even exist when we placed the life seeds here. But the world was empty when we arrived, Hae-Young protested. There were no cities, no signs of civilization. Because we plant and wait, Kesara hissed. The seeds grow slowly, preparing the world for our children who will come when the time is right. You have built your colony on a nursery for future Veltar generations. The negotiations continued for hours. Hae-Young offered to share the world, to restrict mining to certain areas, to help the Veltar recover their crystals. But Kesara would not compromise. The humans had to leave, or there would be war. You don't understand the situation, Hyunwoo said finally. We can't just evacuate 50,000 people overnight. Even if we agreed to leave, it would take months to arrange transport. Then your people will die for your stubbornness, Kesara said, turning toward her ship. As the alien delegation prepared to leave, Yujin arrived with her mother. She had been listening to the negotiations on the colony's communication system, and she carried a bag full of crystals from the mines. Wait! Yujin called out. I'm the one who found the crystals. I'm sorry, I didn't know they were important. To your people. She held out the bag. Please take them back. For a moment, Kesara's expression softened as she looked at the young human. Child, you show more wisdom than your elders. But it is too late. Your machines have damaged the deep networks. The life seeds that remain are dying because of your mining. So Min stepped forward. I'm a botanist. Maybe I can help heal whatever damage we've caused. If you'll teach us about the crystals, we can work together to save them. Kesara studied the human woman. You speak of healing, but your people only know destruction. We have watched your species spread across the stars, consuming everything, in your path. You are a plague upon the galaxy. That's not true, Yujin said. We're explorers and scientists. We want to learn and grow, not destroy. Words, Kesara dismissed. Your actions speak louder. You have 6 of your hours to begin evacuation, or we will remove you by force. As the alien ship lifted off, emergency alarms began sounding throughout the colony. Jaeho's voice came over the communication system. All citizens report to emergency stations. This is not a drill. Hyunwoo gathered his family in their home. We're going to try to evacuate as many people as possible, he told them. But I don't think the Veltar are going to give us enough time. Maybe we can fight them, Yujin said. Earth will send help when they get our message. So-min hugged her daughter. Earth is 6 months away. We're on our own. Outside, the 3 alien ships moved into position around the planet. The colonists worked frantically to load transport ships, but they only had enough vessels to carry a few thousand people. The rest would have to hide in the deep mines and hope the aliens would show mercy. As the 6-hour deadline approached, Hyunwoo made a desperate final transmission to the Veltar ships. This is Captain Park. We're moving as fast as we can, but we need more time. Please, many of these people are families with children. Give us 1 more day. Kesara's reply was cold and final. Your time is over, human. You chose to build your colony on sacred ground. Now face the consequences of your arrogance. The first energy beams struck the colony's power station. In seconds, the lights went out across New Busan. The attack had begun, and humanity was about to learn that not all alien species believed in mercy or second chances. The war that would shake the galaxy had started with a teenage girl's curiosity about glowing crystals. It would end with the extinction of an entire species. The energy beams tore through New Busan like angry lightning. Buildings that had stood for 15 years crumbled in seconds. The Veltar weapons were unlike anything humans had ever seen, turning solid matter into glowing dust with each strike. Hyunwoo ran through the burning streets, searching for his family. The colony's emergency shelters were collapsing under the alien assault. People screamed and ran in all directions, but there was nowhere to hide from the ships overhead. He found So-min at her laboratory, desperately trying to save her research data. The building shook as another energy beam struck nearby. We have to go, Hyunwoo shouted over the noise. Where's Yujin? She went to the mines to help evacuate the workers, So-min said, clutching a data pad to her chest. Hyunwoo, my research on the crystals. If we can understand how they work, maybe we can stop this. The roof above them began to crack. Hyunwoo grabbed his wife's hand, but she pulled away. The data! I have to save the data! So-min turned back toward her computer. That was when the energy beam punched through the laboratory wall. Hyunwoo watched in horror as the alien weapon struck his wife. So-min's last act was to throw the datapad toward him before the energy consumed her. In the deep mines, Yujin worked frantically to help trapped workers reach the emergency exits. The mining tunnels offered some protection from the bombardment, but the crystal networks were going crazy. They pulsed with blinding light and emitted a high-pitched whine that hurt to hear. This way! Yujin called to a group of miners. The northern tunnel leads to the surface exit near the transport ships. Miner Tai Sung Cho limped behind the group, injured when a support beam fell. "Go on without me, kid. I'm just slowing you down." "Nobody gets left behind," Yujin said firmly. She put his arm around her shoulder and helped him walk. "My dad always says we're strongest when we help each other." They were almost to the surface when the mine ceiling collapsed. The Veltar had hit the entrance with a direct strike. Yujin pushed Tae-sung toward a side tunnel just as tons of rock came crashing down. "Yujin!" Tae-sung screamed, but she was already buried. Above ground, Hyunwoo clutched the data pad his wife had died to save. Through his tears, he could see the alien ships methodically destroying every building in the colony. The Veltar were not trying to capture New Busan. They were erasing it. Jae-ho found him in the ruins of the laboratory. "Sir, we have to reach the emergency shelter. It's the only building still standing." "My daughter," Hyunwoo said. "She's in the mines?" "The mine entrances are collapsed, sir. I'm sorry." Hyunwoo looked at the smoking crater where the mine entrance had been. Somewhere under all that rock, his little girl was gone. The daughter who had discovered the crystals with such excitement just yesterday was dead. The emergency shelter held the survivors, 847 people out of 50,000. They huddled in the reinforced bunker as the bombardment continued overhead. Children cried for parents who would never come home. Parents grieved for children who had been at school when the attack began. In the shelter's communications center, technician Min-ho Lee worked to send a message to Earth. The colony's main transmitter was destroyed, but the shelter had a backup system with just enough power for one long-range transmission. "This is New Busan Colony," Hyunwoo spoke into the microphone, his voice steady despite his pain. "We are under attack by an alien species calling themselves the Veltar. They have destroyed our colony and killed 49,000 innocent people. Among the dead are my wife So-min and my daughter Yujin. This recording includes visual data of the attack and information about Veltar technology. Tell Earth what happened here. Tell them that some species in this galaxy choose war over peace." He attached the data that So-min had died to save, including her analysis of the crystal networks and the few scans they had managed of the Veltar ships. Then he sent everything toward Earth. 6 months later, Admiral Jin-ho Choi sat in the Strategic Command Center on Earth, watching Hyunwoo's message for the 10th time. The footage of Yujin's final moments, pushing a wounded miner to safety as the ceiling collapsed, had been broadcast across human space. The 16-year-old girl had become a symbol of innocent life lost to alien aggression. "What do we know about the survivors?" Admiral Choi asked his aide. 47. People rescued by merchant ships 2 weeks after the attack. The Veltar left them alive, apparently to spread word of what happens to those who disturb their sacred sites. Dr. Yoon-ji Song, Earth's lead xenobiologist, had spent months analyzing So-min's data. "The Veltar technology is entirely biological," she reported. "Their ships, weapons, everything is grown rather than built. But that's also their weakness. Biological systems are vulnerable to electromagnetic interference." "How vulnerable?" General Dong Hyun-nam asked. "Specific frequency ranges could cause cascade failures in their neural networks. Their weapons might turn off. Their ships might lose power. We could effectively disable them without destroying them." Admiral Choi studied the tactical displays. "The question is whether we want to disable them or destroy them." General Nam pulled up images of the destroyed colony. 49,000 civilians, Admiral. They didn't try to negotiate further. They didn't target military installations. They killed families. President Mi Young Kang entered the briefing room, her face grim. "I've read all the reports. I've watched the footage. I've listened to the survivor testimonies. The Veltar made their choice when they opened fire on a civilian population." She turned to address the full command staff. "I'm authorizing Operation Retribution. We will find every Veltar ship, base, and colony. We will demonstrate that humanity protects its own." "Ma'am," Dr. Song interrupted, The Veltar might have been acting out of genuine religious conviction. Those crystals might truly be sacred to them. Then they should have found a peaceful solution, President Kang replied. Instead, they chose to murder children. Eugene Park was 16 years old. She was trying to save others when they killed her. How many more Eugenes will die if we don't act? Admiral Choi began mobilizing the Earth Defense Fleet. Ships that had been built for exploration and trade were retrofitted with weapons. Manufacturing centers across human space began producing military equipment at a scale not seen since the corporate wars of the 23rd century. Captain Sung Ho Yang oversaw the weapon development program. We're designing the electromagnetic pulse, systems to be incredibly precise, he told Admiral Choi. We can target their biological technology without affecting our own systems. But as the weapons were tested, something unexpected happened. The electromagnetic frequencies that disabled Veltar technology also killed Veltar themselves. Their nervous systems, evolved around the same bioelectrical patterns as their ships, shut down when exposed to the pulses. It's not a weapon that disables them, Dr. Song reported grimly. It's a weapon that kills them. Admiral Choi looked at the test results. Does it matter? They chose war when they attacked New Busan. Across human space, the industrial machine that had built 50 colonies was now focused on a single goal: finding and destroying every Veltar in the galaxy. Shipyards worked around the clock. Volunteers lined up at recruitment centers. The peaceful traders and farmers and scientists of humanity were transforming into something harder and more dangerous. On. New Busan, now rebuilt as a military base, Hyun-woo worked with the tactical teams planning the assault. The crystals in the deep mines still pulsed with their alien light, but now human scientists used them to track Veltar movements across space. They killed my family, Hyun-woo told the young officers under his command. They chose to murder innocent people rather than find a peaceful solution. Now we show them what happens when you make an enemy of humanity. The war fleets began launching within a year of the New Busan attack. Thousands of ships carrying weapons specifically designed to kill Veltar. The aliens had given humanity a terrible gift, the knowledge that some species in the galaxy could not be reasoned with. But they had also awakened something in humanity that had been sleeping for generations: the capacity for total, methodical, industrial-scale warfare. The Veltar had started a fight they could not win, against an enemy they did not understand. The hunt was about to begin. Commander Sung Ho Yang stood in the massive orbital shipyard above Mars, watching humanity's sleeping giant wake up. The facility had built peaceful trading vessels for 50 years. Now it hammered out warships with the efficiency of a machine. Designed for killing. Production report, he called to his aide, Lieutenant Hyojin Park. Sir, we're completing 12 heavy cruisers per day across all facilities. The electromagnetic pulse weapons are being installed on every ship. Integration with targeting systems is at 96%. Sung Ho nodded, but his expression remained grim. He had served in the Earth Defense Fleet during the peaceful years, when their biggest concerns were asteroid miners and equipment failures. Now, he was helping to build the largest war fleet in human history. What about the new recruits? Training camps are at full capacity, 3 million volunteers in the first month alone. Admiral Choi says we're turning away more people than we can train. The number shocked Sung Ho. 3 million people had volunteered to fight an alien species most humans had never heard of until 6 months ago. The images of Eugene Park's death had done something to humanity's collective mind. They had awakened the protective instincts of an entire species. In the weapons testing facility on Europa, Captain Hyun Cho ran another simulation against Veltar bioships. The electromagnetic pulse cannons were incredibly effective, but their success brought no joy. Every test reminded her that these weapons were designed to kill thinking beings, not just disable machines. Target eliminated, reported technician Jun Seo Kim, as another simulated Veltar ship died on the screens. Cascade failure achieved in 2.3 seconds. No survivors. Ha-Yun watched the data scroll past. The Veltar ships were beautiful in their own way, like living art floating through space. But they were also incredibly fragile when exposed to the right frequencies. Their bio-neural networks collapsed instantly, killing every crew member in seconds. "Run it again," she ordered. "But this time, simulate a ship with families aboard." Jun Seo looked uncomfortable. "Ma'am, do we really need to test that scenario?" "The Veltar ships are living creatures," Ha-Un said quietly. "They probably carry entire communities, not just military crews. We need to know what our weapons will do to non-combatants." The simulation ran again. The results were the same. The electromagnetic pulse killed everything on the ship. Soldiers, workers, children, everyone. The weapons humanity had built were not just military tools. They were instruments of genocide. On Titan, Lieutenant Taemin Huang supervised the training of assault troops. These soldiers would board any Veltar vessels that survived the initial electromagnetic attacks. Their job was to secure alien technology and gather intelligence. "Remember," Taemin told his troops, "the Veltar are physically stronger and faster than humans. But they've never fought a species that builds tools for war. Your weapons are specifically designed to counter their advantages." Private Sujin Lee raised her hand. "Sir, what if we encounter civilian areas on their ships?" The question hung in the air. It was one thing to fight enemy soldiers. It was another to potentially harm alien families who had nothing to do with the attack on New Busan. "Our orders are clear," Taemin said finally. "Secure the ships and protect human lives. Everything else is secondary." But he could see the doubt in his soldiers' eyes. They had signed up to fight the aliens who killed Eugene Park and 49,000 other innocent people. Now they were being asked to possibly do the same thing to alien innocents. Across human space, the industrial mobilization continued at a frightening pace. Asteroid mining operations were converted to metal production. Trade ships were retrofitted with military equipment. Even passenger liners were modified to carry troops and supplies. The speed of the transformation amazed even its organizers. Within 8 months of the New Busan attack, humanity had built a war machine capable of projecting force across dozens of star systems. The peaceful traders and explorers had revealed themselves to be descendants of the species that had dominated Earth through superior technology and ruthless efficiency. Dr. Yoonji Song worked day and night in her laboratory, refining the electromagnetic weapons. She had become the most important scientist in human space, the person who had turned Veltar strength into weakness. But success felt like failure when she thought about what these weapons would do. "The frequency modulation is perfect," she reported to Admiral Choi during their weekly briefing. "We can target specific bio-neural patterns. The weapons will be incredibly effective against any Veltar technology." "And Veltar themselves?" the Admiral asked. Dr. Song hesitated. "The same bio-neural patterns that run their ships also control their nervous systems. The weapons will be very effective." Admiral Choi studied the technical specifications. "Dr. Song, I know this troubles you, but the Veltar made their choice when they opened fire on civilians. We're simply responding with the tools we have." "But sir, what if there are Veltar civilians? What if their society includes non-combatants who had nothing to do with the attack? Then they should have thought of that before they started a war with humanity." In the rebuilt command center on New Busan, Hyunwoo Park worked with the intelligence teams tracking Veltar movements. The alien crystal networks had become humanity's greatest asset, allowing them to detect Veltar ships across vast distances. Young analyst Mi-kyung Shin brought him the latest reports. "Sir, we've identified 17 Veltar outposts within 50 light-years of human space. The nearest one appears to be a supply depot with minimal defenses." Hyunwoo studied the tactical display. Each dot represented a Veltar facility that would soon be attacked by human forces. He felt no satisfaction in the knowledge, only a cold determination to see justice done. What about the larger installations? 3 major bases, including what appears to be a shipyard. And sir, long-range sensors suggest there might be a Veltar world deeper in their territory. The crystal networks seem to originate from that direction. A Veltar homeworld. Hyunwoo stared at the distant signal on the screen. Somewhere out there was the planet where the aliens who killed his family had been born, where their leaders lived, where they raised their own children. How many Veltar do our estimates suggest live on their homeworld? Mi-kyung checked her data. Unknown, sir. Possibly millions, maybe billions. Billions of Veltar. Billions of beings like Kesara, who believed humans were thieves and destroyers, who thought their actions on New Busan were justified, who might not even know that their military had killed human families. But Hyunwoo pushed such thoughts away. His wife was dead. His daughter was dead. 49,000 innocent people were dead because the Veltar had chosen war over diplomacy. Include the homeworld in the target list, he said quietly. The first human war fleets launched 3 months later. Admiral Jin Ho Choi commanded the operation from the flagship Seoul's Vengeance, a massive vessel bristling with electromagnetic weapons. Behind him followed 300 ships carrying 50,000 troops. Their first target was the Veltar, supply depot that intelligence had identified. It was defended by only a handful of bioships, creatures that looked like beautiful spacefaring whales. The battle lasted less than an hour. The electromagnetic pulses struck the Veltar vessels like invisible lightning. Their bioneural networks collapsed instantly, leaving the ships drifting dead in space. Human boarding parties found no survivors. The aliens had died at their posts, their faces frozen in expressions of surprise and pain. Captain Young-soo Park, Hyunwoo's brother, led the boarding of the largest Veltar ship. What he found there would haunt him for the rest of his life. The vessel was not just a military transport, it was a living community. Veltar families had lived and worked aboard the bioship for generations. In the ship's nursery areas, Young-soo found the bodies of Veltar children. They had died instantly when the electromagnetic pulse destroyed their ship's nervous system. Their parents had died trying to protect them, just as human parents had died trying to protect their children on New Busan. "Sir," one of his soldiers called. "We found their data cores. Lots of information about Veltar territory and ship movements." Young-soo stared at the alien children for a long moment. They looked peaceful, as if they were simply sleeping. He thought about his brother's daughter, Yoo-jin, and wondered if she had looked the same after the mine collapse. "Collect everything," he ordered. "Command needs to know what we're fighting." As the human fleet prepared to move to their next target, Young-soo filed his report. He described the military intelligence they had gathered, the effectiveness of their weapons, and the complete destruction of Veltar forces. He did not mention the nurseries or the children. Some truths were too heavy to share. The war machine humanity had built was working exactly as designed. It was efficient, devastating, and utterly without mercy. Just like the Veltar attack on New Busan had been, the hunt had begun, and humanity would not stop until every threat to their people was eliminated. Admiral Woo-jin Lee watched the tactical display as his strike force approached the second Veltar outpost. 3 weeks had passed since the destruction of the supply depot, and intelligence suggested the aliens were starting to understand what they faced. "Sir, we're detecting defensive formations ahead," reported Navigation Officer Dae-hai Kim. 6 bioships in protective positions around what appears to be a research station. Woo-jin studied the alien vessels through the long-range scanners. They were smaller than the ships that had attacked New Busan, but they moved with purpose and coordination. The Veltar were learning to fight back. All ships maintained formation, weapons charged and ready. The battle began when the Veltar bioships launched the first attack. Their energy weapons struck human shields with surprising power, but the electromagnetic pulse response was immediate and devastating. Within minutes, all 6 alien vessels were drifting dead in space. Captain Young-Soo Park commanded the dreadnought Soul's Fury as it led the assault on a Veltar breeding world. The planet's surface was covered with massive biological structures that pulsed with the same light as the crystals found on New Busan. This was where new Veltar bioships were grown and nurtured. "Target the surface installations," Young-Soo ordered. "We cannot allow them to build more ships." The electromagnetic bombardment from orbit was precisely controlled. Each pulse targeted specific bioneural networks, causing the living structures to collapse and die. From space, it looked like lights going out across an entire continent. Lieutenant Sang Wooko monitored the surface scans as the bombardment continued. "Sir, we're detecting massive ecological collapse down there. The entire biological network is connected. When we destroy one section, it affects everything else." Young-Soo watched the readings with growing unease. They were not just destroying military targets. They were killing an entire living ecosystem that had taken centuries to grow. But he thought of his niece Yu-Jin, buried under tons of rock because the Veltar had refused to negotiate. "Continue the bombardment until all military installations are neutralized." The Veltar tried to mount a defense, but their bioships were no match for human electromagnetic weapons. Each engagement followed the same pattern. The aliens would fight bravely, their living vessels maneuvering with organic grace until the human pulse weapons struck. Then silence and death. On the bridge of the command ship Divine Retribution, Admiral Jin Ho Choi received reports from across the front lines. Human forces were advancing on all vectors, systematically destroying every Veltar installation they encountered. "Admiral," Communications Officer Hee-Jin Yu called out, "we're receiving a transmission from the Veltar. It's on the same frequency they used at New Busan." The voice that came through the speakers was different from Kesara's. This one sounded older, more tired. "Human fleet, this is Chancellor Iskala of the Veltar Dominion. We request immediate ceasefire negotiations." Admiral Choi keyed his microphone. "This is Admiral Choi of the Earth Defense Fleet. State your terms." We did not understand the scope of human military capability. Our attack on your colony was made by local commanders who exceeded their authority. The Veltar Dominion wishes to negotiate a peaceful resolution to this conflict." "You attacked and killed 49,000 innocent civilians," Admiral Choi replied coldly. "You refused to negotiate when we offered peaceful solutions. Now you call for talks only. Because you're losing." There was a long pause before the alien voice responded. "Admiral, our peoples need not destroy each other. We can find common ground. The sacred worlds can be shared. Your colonies can coexist with our seeding operations." "Chancellor, your people made their choice when they opened fire on families. You killed children who had done nothing wrong. You chose war instead of peace." "Please," the alien voice pleaded. "We are prepared to offer full reparations for the damage done to your colony. We will provide territory and resources as compensation. There must be a way to end this destruction." Admiral Choi looked at the tactical displays showing human fleets advancing across Veltar space. Every day brought reports of more alien outposts destroyed, more bioships eliminated. The war was proceeding exactly as planned. "Chancellor, I'm going to show you something." Admiral Choi transmitted the recording of Yu-Jin Park's final moments, the footage of a 16-year-old girl dying while trying to save others. The image of her father holding her broken body in the ruins of New Busan. "That girl was trying to become a scientist," Admiral Choi said when the recording ended. "She wanted to study alien life and help humanity understand the galaxy. Your people killed her for touching crystals she didn't know were sacred. Tell me, Chancellor, what negotiations could possibly bring her back?" The transmission from the Veltar ended without response. Captain Ha-Un Cho led a squadron of fast attack ships in pursuit of a fleeing Veltar vessel. The alien bioship was beautiful even in its terror, its organic hull shifting colors as it tried to escape. But human ships were faster, and their weapons had longer range. Target their propulsion systems, Haun ordered. Disable but don't destroy. We need intelligence on their fleet movements. The electromagnetic pulse struck the Veltar ship's bio-neural network with surgical precision. The vessel stopped dead in space, its living systems paralyzed but not killed. Human boarding parties would extract valuable information about remaining Veltar forces. But when the boarding team entered the alien ship, they found something unexpected. The crew had used their final moments to destroy their own data systems rather than let them fall into human hands. They had chosen death over surrender. Sergeant Minjun Seo found the alien captain in the ship's command center. The Veltar officer was still alive but paralyzed by the electromagnetic attack. She looked at the human soldier with eyes that held no fear, only sadness. Why? Minjun asked. Though he knew the alien probably couldn't understand him, the Veltar captain managed to speak in broken English. You are destroyers. We saw the breeding worlds burning, the life seeds dying. You kill everything. You started this war, Minjun replied. You attacked our colony. One world, one mistake. You burn everything. Children, families, all dying because of one world. Minjun felt something cold settle in his stomach. He thought about the orbital bombardments, the systematic destruction of Veltar installations. How many alien families had died in the name of justice for New Busan? You killed our children first, he said, but his voice lacked conviction. And now you kill all our children. For one colony. You destroy our species. Back on Earth, President Mi-young Kang received daily reports of the war's progress. Human forces had eliminated 60% of known Veltar installations. The alien military was in complete retreat, their bioships no match for electromagnetic weapons. Madam President, her aide reported, we're receiving diplomatic communications from several other alien species. They're expressing concern about the scope of our military response. What kind of concern? They're calling it excessive. Some are suggesting that humanity's response has gone beyond proportional retaliation. President Kang studied the reports. Other alien civilizations were watching humanity's first interstellar war with growing alarm. The speed and efficiency of human military operations had shocked the galaxy. Our response is appropriate to the threat, she said finally. The Veltar demonstrated that they cannot be trusted to honor diplomatic agreements. We are ensuring they can never threaten human civilians again. But privately, she wondered if they had gone too far. The military report spoke of destroyed worlds and eliminated populations. The war that had started to avenge 49,000 dead humans was now killing millions of Veltar. On the rebuilt New Busan colony, Hyun-woo Park worked in the memorial garden where his wife and daughter were buried. The flowers So-min had loved grew wild here now, spreading across the red soil in defiance of the alien environment. Dad? Hyun-woo turned to see technician Mi-kyung Shin approaching. She looked troubled. What is it? Sir, we've been analyzing the Veltar communication networks. The crystal systems aren't just military infrastructure, they're how Veltar families stay connected across space. When we destroy their installations, we're cutting off their communication with their loved ones. Hyun-woo looked at the simple, grave markers bearing his family's names. They should have thought of that before they attacked civilians. Yes, sir. But, sir, some of the intercepted communications, they're from Veltar families asking about missing relatives. Parents looking for children. Children calling for parents who will never answer. Hyun-woo stood in silence for a long moment, surrounded by the flowers his dead wife had planted. The war was working exactly as intended. Humanity was methodically eliminating the Veltar threat. Justice was being served for Yu-jin and all the other innocents who had died. So why did victory feel so much like becoming the very thing they were fighting against? Fleet Admiral Sun Hee Bei stood in the war room deep beneath Earth's surface, coordinating the most comprehensive military campaign in human history. Holographic displays showed Veltar territory as a three-dimensional map marked with red dots. Each one a target for elimination. Status report, she called to her staff. Colonel In-Ho Jang consulted his datapad. Ma'am, we've neutralized 84% of identified Veltar installations. Our hunter-killer squadrons have destroyed over 3,000 bioships. The electromagnetic tracking system is now capable of detecting Veltar life signs from up to 50 light-years away. Sun Hee studied the tactical displays. The war had evolved beyond simple military engagements. Human forces now hunted Veltar across the galaxy with scientific precision, tracking their biosignatures like a pack of wolves following scent trails. What about civilian populations? The question made the room uncomfortable. It was becoming harder to distinguish between Veltar military and civilian targets when their entire society was built around biological integration. Ma'am. Intelligence. Officer Ji-Won Park replied carefully. Veltar society doesn't separate military and civilian the way human society does. Their ships carry entire communities. Their installations support extended family groups. Every target contains both combatants and non-combatants. But they made the choice to attack New Busan, Sun Hee said firmly. Every Veltar death is a consequence of that decision. Dr. Kang Ho Im had been working for months on biological weapons specifically designed to target Veltar physiology. His laboratory on Mars had become one of humanity's most classified facilities, developing tools of war that pushed ethical boundaries. The neural toxin is ready for field testing, he reported to the Weapons Committee. It targets the specific bioelectrical patterns found in Veltar nervous systems. Deployment through atmospheric seeding would affect an entire planet within hours. Dr. Ji Soo-yoon, the committee's ethics advisor, looked pale. Dr. Im, you're describing a weapon that could kill every Veltar on a world regardless of age or involvement in the conflict. Yes, Dr. Im replied matter-of-factly. That's exactly what it's designed to do. The Veltar proved they cannot be trusted to coexist with humanity. This weapon ensures they can never threaten us again. But this is genocide, Dr. Yoon protested. We're talking about the deliberate extermination of an entire species. General Dong Hyun Nam leaned forward. Dr. Yoon, I understand your concerns, but the Veltar started this war by murdering 49,000 civilians. How many more human colonies will they destroy if we show mercy? We don't know that they would attack again. They've been trying to surrender for months. They tried to surrender when they realized they were losing, General Nam corrected. Where was their mercy when human children were dying on New Busan? The biological weapon was approved for production despite Dr. Yoon's objections. Hyun-woo Park had become something he never expected to be, an expert on alien extermination. His knowledge of Veltar technology and psychology made him invaluable to the military planners. But each briefing felt like another step away from the man who had once shared quiet dinners with his family. The Veltar are attempting to hide their remaining populations in deep space, he told the tactical team. They're using minimal bioemissions to avoid our detection systems, but they still need to maintain communication with their crystal networks. Lieutenant Commander Bo Young, Lee studied the star charts. How do we flush them out? We target the networks themselves, Hyun-woo explained. The crystals aren't just communication devices. They're how Veltar maintain their connection to their ancestors and their culture. Without them, their society collapses. So we destroy every crystal network in known space? Every single one. We make it impossible for them to maintain their civilization anywhere in the galaxy. The systematic destruction of Veltar crystal networks was perhaps the most thorough cultural genocide ever attempted. Human forces didn't just destroy the installations. They used specialized weapons to corrupt the bioelectrical patterns, ensuring the networks could never be rebuilt. Captain Young-Soo Park watched from the bridge of Soul's Fury as another ancient Veltar cultural site died under electromagnetic bombardment. The crystal formations had been growing for thousands of years, accumulating the memories and knowledge of countless generations. Now they dissolved into glowing dust. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "we're receiving desperate transmissions from Veltar survivors. They're begging us to stop destroying the memory crystals." Young-Soo looked at the alien messages scrolling across his screen. Even through the translation software, the pain and desperation were clear. The Veltar weren't just losing military assets, they were watching their entire history being erased. "Continue the bombardment," he ordered. "Leave nothing functional." He thought about his brother Hyunwoo, working tirelessly to plan the next phase of destruction. The war had changed them all. They had become efficient killers in the name of justice, methodical exterminators serving the cause of peace. The Veltar attempts at surrender became more desperate as their situation deteriorated. Chancellor Iskala made increasingly frantic transmissions to human forces, offering everything from total submission to voluntary exile from the galaxy. "We will leave," the alien leader pleaded in his latest message. "The Veltar will abandon all our worlds and travel to the dark spaces beyond your reach. Please, just let our children live." Admiral Jin Ho Choi broadcast his response on all frequencies, ensuring every Veltar in space would hear it. "Chancellor, your people had the opportunity for peaceful coexistence. You chose war instead. You chose to murder human families instead of negotiating. Now you face the consequences of those choices." "But surely," the Chancellor's voice broke, "surely human mercy extends to our innocent young ones. They had no part in the attack on your colony." Admiral Choi thought of Yu Jin Park, 16 years old and trying to save others when the Veltar killed her. "Your people showed no mercy to our innocent young ones. Yu Jin Park was trying to become a scientist when your weapons buried her alive. Tell me, Chancellor, why should we show mercy that was denied to her?" The transmission ended with the sound of alien weeping. Dr. Eun Ji Song had not slept properly in months. Her electromagnetic weapons had become the primary tool of Veltar extermination, and the weight of that knowledge pressed down on her constantly. She had created the most effective method of killing an entire species. "Dr. Song," her assistant Jimin called, "we're getting reports that some Veltar are attempting to modify their biosignatures to avoid detection." "What kind of modifications?" "They're surgically altering their neural patterns, trying to mimic other species' bioelectrical signatures. Some are even attempting to implant artificial neural interfaces to hide their natural patterns." The desperation of it struck Dr. Song like a physical blow. The Veltar were mutilating themselves, abandoning their biological heritage, in a desperate attempt to survive human hunting algorithms. "Are the modifications effective?" "Not really. Our detection systems are too sophisticated. We can identify Veltar biopatterns even through extensive modification." Dr. Song stared at her computer screen, where equations described the precise frequencies needed to kill any Veltar, regardless of their attempts to hide. She had made it impossible for them to escape. On the rebuilt New Busan colony, survivor support groups met weekly to discuss their experiences and plan for the future. Most talked about rebuilding their lives and honoring the memory of the dead, but some spoke of darker things. "I dream about them every night," said former miner Tai Sung Cho, the man Yujin had saved in the mines. "I dream about the Veltar children dying in space. I saved my life, but she's dead, and now we're killing their young ones too." Counselor Hyerim Kang tried to provide comfort. "Taesung, what happened to Yujin was a tragedy, but she wouldn't want you to blame yourself, and she wouldn't want you to feel guilty about protecting humanity from future attacks." "But we're not just protecting ourselves anymore," Taesung replied. "We're hunting them. We're trying to kill every single one. How is that different from what they did to us?" The question hung in the air, unanswered. Around the galaxy, human. Forces continued their methodical extermination campaign. The Veltar population had dropped to less than 10% of its pre-war numbers. Soon there would be none left at all. The war machine humanity had built was working exactly as designed. It was thorough, efficient, and absolutely merciless. Just as the Veltar had been merciless when they killed human families on New Busan. But in the quiet moments between battles, some humans began to wonder if they had become something worse than the enemy they sought to destroy. They had become a species that could methodically exterminate another species while telling themselves it was justice. The galaxy watched in silent horror as humanity demonstrated what happened to those who threatened their people. The lesson was clear: attack human civilians, and your entire species would pay the price. But lessons written in blood tend to teach more than their authors intended. The massive human fleet hung in space like a constellation of death. 10,000 ships surrounded the last Veltar world, their weapons trained on the blue-green planet below. Supreme Admiral Byung-ho Jeon stood on the bridge of the flagship. Earth's vengeance, looking down at what remained of an entire species. Fleet status report, he called to his staff. All ships in position, sir, reported Fleet Captain Sujin Oh. 2 billion Veltar life signs detected on the surface. No military installations remain functional, no orbital defenses. They're completely helpless. Byung-ho studied the tactical displays. 2 years of systematic hunting had led to this moment. Every other Veltar world had been sterilized, every bioship destroyed, every crystal network eliminated. The beings that had once spread across dozens of star systems now huddled together on their ancient homeworld, waiting for humanity's judgment. Sir, Communications Officer Junho Yang announced, we're receiving a transmission from the planetary surface. It's Chancellor Iskala. The alien voice that came through the speakers was broken and weary. Supreme Admiral, this is Chancellor Iskala of what remains of the Veltar people. I request permission to speak with your commander. This is Admiral Jeon. State your purpose. Admiral, I wish to formally surrender on behalf of all surviving Veltar. We offer no resistance. We have no weapons. We ask only for the chance to explain our actions and perhaps find some path to mercy. Byung-ho looked at the planet below. Intelligence reports suggested that most of the 2 billion Veltar on the surface were civilians. Families, children, elderly beings who had never seen a human and never fired a weapon. Chancellor, you had 2 years to surrender. Your people chose to continue fighting until the very end. No, Admiral. Our military chose to fight. Our leaders chose to fight. But the families on this world, the children, they chose nothing. They are innocent of the crimes committed against your people. The transmission included visual data from the planet's surface. Byung-ho watched as the images showed Veltar cities filled with civilians. Children played in bioorganic structures, while parents tended to gardens of living crystal. Elderly Veltar shared knowledge with the young in vast libraries that grew like trees. These people had no part in the attack on your colony, Chancellor Iskala continued. They have never harmed humans. They don't even know why ships from the stars have come to end their world. Captain Rangmin Kim, the fleet's intelligence officer, provided additional analysis. Sir, our scans confirm that the planet contains no military facilities, no weapons manufacturing, no ship construction. It appears to be purely a civilian population center. Byung-ho studied the data. After 2 years of war, this was what remained of the Veltar species. Billions of civilians who had never fired a shot, never made a policy decision, never chosen war with humanity. Admiral Jin-ho Choi's voice came through the secure communication channel from Earth. Admiral Jeon, what is your assessment of the target? Sir, the planet appears to contain only civilian populations. No military threat, no weapons. They're asking for mercy. There was a long pause before Admiral Choi responded. Admiral, I'm transmitting something for you to review, something we want you to consider before making any decisions. The transmission was a recording from New Busan, not the famous footage of Yujin Park's death, but something else. Audio recordings from the emergency shelters during the attack. Children crying for their parents, parents screaming for their children, the sounds of 49,000 people dying. "Sir," Byung-ho said after listening to the recording, "I understand the desire for justice. But these civilians had nothing to do with New Busan. Admiral, the Veltar leadership came from these people. Their military came from these people. Their decision to attack our colony was supported by this population. They are not innocent." Hyun-woo Park's voice joined the conversation from his position on the command ship. "Admiral John, my daughter wanted to be a scientist. She dreamed of discovering new life and helping species understand each other. The Veltar killed her for touching crystals she didn't know were sacred. Sir, I understand your loss, but there are children on that planet who are the same age Yujin was when she died." "Yes," Hyun-woo replied quietly, "and if we let them live, they'll grow up hating humanity for destroying their world. They'll become the next generation of Veltar who see us as destroyers. The cycle will continue." Chancellor Iskala's voice crackled through the speakers again. "Admiral, I offer you the complete surrender of our species. We will submit to any terms humanity demands. Exile us to the dark spaces beyond the galaxy. Take our ships and our technology. Make us your servants if you must. But please, let our children live." The transmission included more images from the planet. Veltar families gathering in their cities not to fight but to sing. They were performing what appeared to be funeral songs for their own species, preparing to die with dignity. Dr. Yoon-ji Song's voice came through a secure channel from Earth. "Admiral, I've been monitoring the biosignatures from the planet. The Veltar aren't preparing for war. They're preparing for death. They know they can't fight our weapons. Dr. Song, what would happen to the ecosystem if we deployed the biological weapon?" "Complete collapse. The Veltar have integrated their biology with their planet's ecosystem. Killing them would essentially kill the world itself." Admiral Jian looked out at his fleet. 10,000 ships crewed by humans who had volunteered to avenge New Busan. Soldiers who had given years of their lives to hunt down every Veltar in the galaxy. They had succeeded beyond all expectations. "Admiral," his aide reported, "we're receiving communications from other alien species throughout the galaxy. They're begging us not to destroy the Veltar homeworld." "What are they saying?" "They're calling it an act that would define humanity's place in galactic civilization forever. Some are offering to take responsibility for Veltar survivors. Others are proposing exile or imprisonment rather than extermination." Captain Young-soo Park commanded the Soul's Fury in the forward battle line. His weapons were charged and ready to begin the final bombardment, but he found himself thinking about the nurseries he had found on Veltar ships. The children who had died instantly when his electromagnetic weapons fired. "Sir," his weapons officer reported, "all systems ready for planetary bombardment. The biological weapon can be deployed on your command." Young-soo stared at the blue-green world below. Somewhere on that planet were millions of Veltar children who had never heard of New Busan or Yujin Park. They were about to die for decisions their leaders had made before they were born. But he also thought about his niece, crushed in a mine, collapse, because aliens had decided human children didn't matter. "Maintain ready status," he ordered. "Await command authorization." On Earth, President Mi Young-kong stood in the Situation Room, surrounded by advisors and military leaders. The decision she made in the next few minutes would determine humanity's reputation for the rest of galactic history. "Madam President," her military advisor said, "the fleet is in position. The biological weapon is ready for deployment. We can end the Veltar threat permanently." "And the political consequences?" "Unknown. No species in galactic history has attempted complete extermination of another spacefaring race. We would be setting a precedent." "What precedent did the Veltar set? When they murdered our colonists?" The question went unanswered. Outside the Situation Room, protesters had gathered demanding both mercy and vengeance. Some carried pictures of New Busan victims. Others held signs reading, "Remember Eugene." The weight of 49,000 deaths pressed down on every decision. Back. In space, Admiral John received his final orders from Earth. President Kang's voice was steady and formal. "Admiral, you are authorized to proceed with the complete sterilization of the Veltar homeworld. Leave no survivors. Ensure the Veltar can never threaten human life again." Hyun-Woo Park stood on the observation deck of the command ship, looking down at the alien world. In a few hours, it would be dead. Every Veltar child, every family, every elder who remembered their species' ancient history, all of it would be gone, erased by weapons he had helped design. He thought about So-Min, who had dreamed of helping alien plants grow in human soil. He thought about Yu-Jin, who had been excited to discover new life in the universe. Would they have wanted this complete destruction of another species? But he also remembered holding Yu-Jin's broken body in the ruins of New Busan. The Veltar had made their choice when they decided human lives didn't matter. "Begin the final bombardment," Admiral John commanded. The last war between humanity and the Veltar was about to end. Only one species would survive to remember it. The bombardment of Veltaros Prime lasted 3 days. From orbit, the human fleet watched as electromagnetic pulses and biological weapons sterilized the last Veltar world. The ancient crystal networks that had connected the species for millennia died first, their light fading like stars going out one by one. Admiral Byung-ho Jeon stood on the bridge of Earth's vengeance, watching the final reports come in. "All life signs negative," reported his scanning officer. "No bioelectrical activity detected on the planetary surface." The blue-green world below had turned gray and lifeless. 2 billion Veltar had died in their cities and homes, their bio-integrated technology collapsing along with their nervous systems. The planet that had been the birthplace of their species was now a tomb. "Sir," Communications Officer Jun-Ho Yang announced, "we're receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. Multiple species are responding to our completion of the operation." The messages came from dozens of alien civilizations. Some expressed horror at humanity's actions. Others offered cautious congratulations on eliminating a threat. But all carried the same underlying message. The galaxy had learned to fear what humans were capable of when their people were threatened. Captain Young-Soo Park commanded the final sweep of Veltar space, ensuring no survivors remained hidden in deep space stations or asteroid bases. His ships found nothing but empty installations and dead bioships drifting in the cosmic void. "It's over," he reported to Fleet Command. "The Veltar species is extinct." The words felt strange in his mouth. Humanity had accomplished something unprecedented in galactic history, the complete elimination of another spacefaring species. The children who had once played in Veltar nurseries would never grow up. The elders who had preserved their culture for thousands of years had died with their memories. Young-Soo thought about his niece Yu-Jin and wondered if this was the justice she would have wanted. 1 year after the end of the Veltar War, the Galactic Council convened on Earth for the first time in history. Representatives from 47 species gathered in the gleaming towers of New Geneva to hear humanity's new doctrine for interstellar relations. Ambassador Myung-Soo stood before the assembled delegates, representing a species that had proven it could eliminate any threat to its people. The humans in the audience included survivors from New Busan and families of the 49,000 who had died in the original attack. "Honored delegates," Myung-Soo began, "we gather today to establish new principles for galactic civilization, principles written in the ashes of a species that chose war over peace." The alien delegates listened in tense silence. Some had known Veltar diplomats personally. Others had traded with Veltar colonies for centuries. Now they were gone, extinct because they had made an enemy of humanity. The Veltar attacked our colony without warning, Myung-Soo continued. They killed 49,000 innocent civilians, including children and families who had never harmed anyone. When we offered to negotiate, they chose to continue fighting, rather than find peaceful solutions. Images of New Busan appeared on the massive screens around the chamber. The burning buildings, the collapsed mines, the memorial wall with Eugene Park's name at the top of the list. Humanity tried diplomacy first. We offered to share worlds and resources. We sought understanding and coexistence. The Veltar responded with violence against our people. Ambassador Crixton of the Althari Federation spoke up. Ambassador O. Surely the complete extermination of their species was an excessive response. Could not exile or imprisonment have served justice? Myung-Soo turned to face the alien delegate. Ambassador Crixton, would your people accept exile as punishment for murdering Althari children? Would imprisonment satisfy Althari justice if another species attacked your colonies without provocation? The alien delegate shifted uncomfortably but did not answer. The new doctrine is simple, Myung-Soo announced. Any attack on human civilians will result in the complete elimination of the attacking species. There will be no warnings. There will be no negotiations. There will be no mercy. Touch our people, and we will erase your species from existence. The chamber erupted in worried murmurs and frightened whispers. Never before had a galactic power made such an absolute threat. But surely, Ambassador Yelkwa of the Vorthok Collective protested, this doctrine allows for no mistakes, no misunderstandings between species. The Veltar had every opportunity to resolve their grievances peacefully, Myung-Soo replied. They chose violence instead. They chose to kill our children rather than talk. They wrote the rules of engagement when they opened fire on New Busan. On the rebuilt New Busan colony, Hyunwoo Park tended a small garden where his wife and daughter were buried. The memorial had grown into a peaceful place where survivors came to remember the dead and reflect on what had followed their deaths. Tai Sung, Cho visited often, bringing flowers that So Min had loved. Do you think they would approve? He asked Hyunwoo one day, gesturing toward the sky where human warships patrolled the system. Hyunwoo looked at the grave markers.